Athens built an entire metropolis around 2,500-year-old ruins, but forgot to plan anything else. This concrete jungle squeezes 3.1 million people into a basin surrounded by mountains that trap pollution like a lid on a pot. The city that invented democracy couldn't vote for a single urban planning decision that makes sense. Apartments were built with no regard for streets, parks, or basic human needs. The average Athenian spends 68 hours yearly stuck in traffic while breathing air that exceeds EU pollution limits 150 days annually. They built a metro system 50 years too late that covers barely 10% of the metropolitan area. Street parking means leaving your car halfway on sidewalks already cluttered with motorcycles, cafe tables, and street vendors. Summer temperatures hit 45 degrees Celsius or 113 degrees Fahrenheit in a city where green space accounts for just 2 square meters per resident. That's smaller than your bathroom. They hosted the Olympics in 2004, but couldn't figure out what to do with the venues afterward, creating billion-euro concrete graveyards. That's not preserving history, that's creating future ruins.
Naples. Naples crams 3 million people into narrow streets designed for horse carts and the occasional plague. This city stacked centuries of architecture without bothering to upgrade any infrastructure. The historic center features 2,000-year-old Roman roads now serving as impromptu parking lots for scooters. Public transit consists of 2 metro lines that were supposed to be completed by 2000 but remain under construction in 2026. Your 5-kilometer commute takes 45 minutes by car or bus, while the sidewalks qualify as an obstacle course. They built the city on an active volcano and act surprised when evacuation plans fail. Garbage collection is theoretical rather than practical. The 2008 waste crisis never truly ended, just relocated. The Camorra crime syndicate has more influence on urban development than city planners. Housing regulations are treated as loose suggestions, resulting in illegal additions that turn apartment buildings into architectural Jenga towers. Walking through Spanish Quarter means navigating streets so narrow you can touch both sides while dodging laundry hanging overhead. That's not urban planning, that's medieval living with smartphones.
Paris. Paris maintains a gorgeous historic center while pushing everyone who actually works there to concrete suburbs 90 minutes away. The central arrondissements are a pristine museum where apartments cost 15,000 euros per square meter, while the banlieues crumble. The city that invented boulevards now features the world's most terrifying traffic circle at Arc de Triomphe, where 12 roads converge without lane markings. Good luck, tourists. The RER commuter trains pack 2 million suburbanites daily into carriages designed for half that number. La Défense business district sits disconnected from the city like a spaceship that landed in the wrong century. They spent billions building the perfect 19th century city, then refused to evolve it for modern life. The Seine floods regularly because medieval drainage systems can't handle climate change. Parisians pay 1,200 euros monthly for studio apartments smaller than American prison cells. The city created a rigid building height limit that preserved its skyline while causing a housing crisis. That's not urban planning, that's urban preservation at the expense of livability.
Warsaw. Warsaw had the tragic opportunity to rebuild from scratch after WW2 destroyed 85% of the city. Somehow they made it worse. Soviet planners replaced narrow streets with 8-lane highways that divide neighborhoods like concrete rivers. The Palace of Culture and Science, a gift from Stalin, towers over a city center designed for military parades rather than human life. Commuter districts like Ursunov pack 150,000 people into identical concrete blocks where finding your own building requires counting from the metro. The city's main arteries, Yerozolimsky and Marshalkovska, create a hostile crossing experience that makes pedestrians feel like moving targets. They rebuilt the historic Old Town as a picture-perfect tourist zone while surrounding it with brutalist apartment blocks that look like they're permanently scowling. The Vistula riverbanks remained undeveloped for 70 years because planners apparently forgot water could be an amenity.
Praga district sits across the river like an abandoned movie set. Underground passages force pedestrians to descend into dim tunnels just to cross streets. That's not rebuilding a city, that's punishing people for living there.
Birmingham took a functioning medieval city and sacrificed it to the automobile gods. The Bull Ring shopping center sits like a concrete tumor in the city center, connected by a ring road locals call concrete collar because it strangles the city. In the 1960s, they demolished Victorian neighborhoods to build elevated highways that cast permanent shadows over what remained. The canal network that could be a beautiful feature is instead hidden behind shopping centers. New Street Station, which handles 140,000 passengers daily, was rebuilt in 2015, but somehow still feels like a crowded basement. The city center is a maze of pedestrian tunnels, overhead walkways, and underpasses designed by someone who apparently hated humans. They fragmented neighborhoods with the A38M motorway that cuts through the city like a concrete guillotine. The average resident spends 10 days yearly sitting in traffic while buildings designed by brutalist architects loom overhead like angry giants. Digbeth's creative quarter requires crossing 6-lane roads with 2-minute crossing signals. That's not urban renewal, that's urban replacement therapy.
Bucharest. Bucharest suffered through the world's most megalomaniacal urban planning experiment when Ceausescu demolished 1/5 of the historic center to build his Palace of Parliament, the world's second largest administrative building after the Pentagon. This concrete monstrosity required destroying 40,000 homes and relocating 40,000 people. The resulting boulevard of socialist victory stretches 3.5 kilometers, but feels like marching through an architectural dictatorship. The city center is a bizarre mix of French-inspired 19th century buildings, communist blocks, and glass-box malls with zero coherence. They built a metro system for a population half its current size, resulting in stations where personal space is a distant memory during rush hour. Residential neighborhoods feature apartment blocks with plumbing that breaks weekly and elevators that work monthly. The city's infrastructure crumbles while officials build ever wider roads. Summer temperatures hit 40 degrees Celsius in neighborhoods with zero tree cover. Heating district fails regularly during winter, forcing residents to choose between freezing or electrocuting themselves with improvised heaters. That's not a capital city, that's a cautionary tale about political architecture.
Milan boasts itself as Italy's modern business capital, but designed a city where breathing the air equals smoking 15 cigarettes daily. This industrial powerhouse consistently ranks among Europe's most polluted cities, regularly exceeding EU limits for particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide. The city's response? Congestion charges that simply moved traffic jams 500 meters outward. They built a financial district around Porta Nuova with gleaming skyscrapers, but forgot to provide adequate public transportation connections. The subway system covers barely 60% of urban areas, forcing commuters into cars that sit in traffic for 70 hours annually per driver. Housing costs force workers 30 kilometers outward, while trains from suburbs run hourly if they run at all. The Navigli canals could be beautiful urban features, but instead serve mainly as outdoor drinking platforms surrounded by overpriced apartments. Winter fog combines with pollution to create a toxic soup that residents breathe for months. They're building luxury condos while affordable housing disappears faster than gelato in August. The historic center remains beautiful while peripheral neighborhoods transform into Europe's most elegant parking lots. That's not a sustainable city, that's a fashionable smog machine with excellent coffee.
Istanbul straddles 2 continents but can't figure out how to get people across town in less than 2 hours. This 15 million person metropolis expanded haphazardly while infrastructure struggled to catch up. The Bosphorus bridges were obsolete the day they opened, now carrying 600,000 vehicles daily on roads designed for 280,000.
The historic peninsula contains priceless Byzantine and Ottoman treasures surrounded by tourist traps and traffic gridlock. They built the Marmaray undersea rail tunnel connecting Europe and Asia, then watched as housing prices near stations quadrupled overnight. Neighborhoods like Fikirtepe underwent urban transformation that displaced thousands while creating luxury towers that sit half empty. Informal settlements called Gecekondu, built overnight, house millions in structures that won't survive the next earthquake. The city that was once Constantinople now contains neighborhoods so far from the center that residents might as well live in another country. Taksim Square, meant to be the city's heart, feels more like its clogged artery. They're building a third airport 35 kilometers from downtown that required cutting down 13 million trees. Summer water shortages occur in a city surrounded by water. That's not bridging continents, that's creating a transcontinental traffic jam with a view.